Stand by. Okay. Yep. Okay. And there we go. Yep. All right, folks, here we go. Monday, first day of the convention. We'll bring you the latest. Just get set up here. Yes, 12:03. Yes, we're going to do Road Patrol Live later. Yes, yes, and yes. Before the convention tonight. Yep. Okay, there we go. Just do this. And we'll go to that. We'll bring you up to speed on everything, everybody. Just bear with me. Good afternoon. Yes, there's JR. We are good to go. Just making sure we're up on all our different platforms. Good. There's that. Just check the latest, folks. Good. There we are. Hola. There I am. Good. All right. We'll bring you all of the latest news. I mean, it is the RNC Republican National Committee. I'm calling it the Trump Convention. That's how I view it, as the Trump Convention. So this is the real news at noon, though. That part is true. And it is the Trump Convention, for crying out loud. What else would you call it? I mean, it is the RNC, but good. There's YouTube. Got to work on that. We're getting there. Very happy with the way things are going. All right. We're live in 1 minute. 1 minute. Let me see when I go to. What do I see when I'm there? Oh, okay. Yep. All right. We are live in just a minute. Give some shout outs here. There's Chris Moran. It's a big day. Hi there, Patty Ann. There's MJ. Steve Aruda. There's Angie. Yes. There's Chris Moran. Yes, there's Danielle. Good afternoon, one and all. There's Jane Rice. How's Buddy? Good afternoon, everybody. Yep. There's Cindy. Folks, to those that are watching, very proud of, I'm going to show, before we hit the airwaves, where is she? There is Kate DePietro right there at the RNC. That fantastic. So proud of her. There she is, day one, getting ready to meet President Trump. And that's a nice picture the subscribers saw last night. There's Kate and Dana right there. Great Dana Perino. All right, we're live in just a moment. And at 12:06 on what is, folks, without question, a historic Monday, July 15th. And it is day one of the Republican National Convention in Milwaukee. Now, I'm going to give you the latest. Now, it's a big day because, from what we understand, for many different reasons. Number one, tonight, President Trump is expected to appear on the stage. He did some interviews over the weekend. He wouldn't let them take photos, which I think was wise. New York Post. He also did an interview with the Washington Examiner, and that is a reporter that has followed him, covered him quite a bit. I believe she's based out of Pittsburgh, but Byron York also was part of that. But the New York Post interview, I thought it was interesting. He obviously has the bandage on the ear. I mean, there's so much we're learning about this, and then the big news, and folks, this is the real news at noon. But I just want to double check, and from what we understand, today is the day that apparently President Trump is in fact going to announce his VP selection. Now, there's also some news that I'm seeing that I'm going to get to that as well. You can't underestimate how things have shifted. This is interesting from Jeff Greenfield, used to be on with Imus. I'm not sure where political mag columnist. This is an interesting observation. In the last 18 days, Trump's opponents tanks in the debate. Democrats deeply divided on whether Biden needs to be dumped. Now that's over. Trump escapes death by an inch. Judge dismisses the strongest case against him. Maybe the biggest stretch of luck by a candidate in history. And I think that is accurate. Federal charges dropped. President Trump tells Fox News he's making his VP announcement today. What did Senator Sheldon Whitehouse say? Dismissing the document case does seem like it is more MAGA than it is law. You know, folks, is there anyone more out of step with what's really going on in the world right now than the elected officials of Rhode Island? I don't know. It's a tough one. But I want to stay on schedule. Again, we have a lot to get to, especially the latest and also some of the remarks coming from elected officials in Rhode Island. I'll bring them to you. It borders on embarrassing, if not outright embarrassment. To me, is basically what it, in essence, in many ways, comes down to. That it is just, in fact, it's embarrassing, is what we're talking about. It's embarrassing. But this portion of the program is brought to you by PR Landscape Materials and Garden Center. Now, right now, they have fantastic, what a season they're having, locally sourced vegetables, sweet corn, native tomatoes, and more. PR Landscape Materials and Garden Center. Great quality, 3688 Quaker Lane in North Kingstown, right off of Route 4. The next time, if you're going down to the beaches, South County, you could pop in. Locally owned and operated, Steve, Debbie, Junior, Byron, sweet corn, native tomatoes. But on top of that, right now, PR Landscape Materials and Garden Center, full scale, you're going to find out why I call them, and I believe they are Rhode Island's #1 garden center. It's PR Landscape Materials and Garden Center. Annuals, perennials, trees and shrubs, hanging pots, hanging patients, large selection, beautiful patio pots, vegetable plants and herbs. They have it all. They're open 7 days a week. It's PR Landscape Materials and Garden Center. And especially this week, it's going to be very warm. First heat wave of the summer. On your way back from the beaches, pop in and see them. Now, I received an email this morning from someone saying, do you realize that everyone in their workplace is talking about DePetro.com? I understand that. You're welcome. I mean, thank you. Folks, DePetro.com, our website, where you can listen live, by the way, is brought to you by the Cohasset Inn, 226 Cohasset Avenue, West Warwick. Lunch, dinner, drinks, the lounge, the market at Cohasset. They're waiting for you at the Cohasset Inn. It's a large enough restaurant that if you're having a get-together, what I like is they can accommodate everybody. And as you've heard me say in the past, it's actually a good spot for the collation lunch after services, the Cohasset Inn. All right. Now, couple more announcements. Someone asked me about the Red Sox road trip that's coming up in August. Yes, Red Sox, Baltimore, August 16th through the 18th. I think they have a couple seats open. Alan Hochman Tours 401-274-TRIP. Even if you just like to explore the trip, learn more, it's a road trip, August 16th through the 18th. I'll say this, it's very family friendly, it's children friendly. And if you have children during the course of the summer, it's one thing, you go to the beach. It's another thing you go to a pool. Something they will forever remember is a road trip to see the Red Sox take on the Baltimore Orioles in Baltimore. And once you get there, it's all walking. And the harbor at Baltimore is beautiful, by the way. Try to get in. I think he's got a couple seats left. Road trip, 401-274-TRIP, August 16th through the 18th. It's Alan Hochman Tours online at 274trip.com. All right, let's get to the latest. Now, obviously, folks, for those of you that have been following, I mean, it's hard to, we're learning even more. I think what we're hearing from President Trump, he's obviously been through something, as you can imagine, life-changing, assassination attempt. And there was a loss of life. There was a loss of life. The comments that he made in an interview with the New York Post, where it's not lost on him what happened. So, a couple of headlines right now. Secret Service identified rooftop as vulnerability. If you saw the press briefing yesterday that the Secret Service gave, there does seem to be this disconnect where they feel, oh no, we're only responsible for what's in the immediate area around the president. I mean, I think they're going to change the way they do that. So, I mean, again, I'm not going to say anything I don't think that has been saying. When you look at that, clearly there should have been either a police officer on the roof or 4 police officers around the building, not allowing anyone to get on there. But there seems to be a disconnect between what the Secret Service, what they think their responsibility is compared to the reality of it, which as soon as, a 20-year-old lost misfit takes his father's long gun and starts firing rounds in a direct line at the Republican nominee and a former president, then the sniper immediately takes him out. But I know they're blaming the local police. And I don't know if that is, the case. I don't know if that's accurate. But when it comes down to who is it that you saw jump onto the pile? By the way, President Trump praising his Secret Service. Don Jr. praising the Secret Service. How hard did they hit him? As he said in the New York Post, like a linebacker. They hit him, the president, so hard they knocked his shoes off. And he said, and I had my laces very tight. But that leaping up, as we've all seen, in my mind, the election, it's over. It's over. You're not going to beat that. You can't beat that. There's certain things you can't reverse. I'm not going to give a great analogy, but there's an episode on Seinfeld where George tells this girl, I love you. And she says, I'm hungry. Let's go eat. And as he's relaying to Jerry, he's trying to say, there's nowhere to go with this when one person says, I love you, and the other person says, I'm hungry. Let's go eat. My point is, I mean, it is what it is. Ultimately, the Secret Service is they're the ones responsible. That's who everyone's looking at. I think they're going to change now, where maybe the Secret Service in the past, they were only responsible for the immediate area. I think people are realizing, like, well, wait a minute. It should be the entire encompassing area. Because apparently a local police officer, no, we don't have all that, but started climbing up to the roof. People were yelling, there's a guy up there with a gun. Insanity. And then when he climbs up, they see each other and he climbs back down. As I have told you, the Secret Service, that Secret Service sniper, in 1 second, boom, took him out. Direct bullseye, as President Trump said, shot him. Perfect shot right there. But they do that. They're practiced for that. They're professional snipers. You can't expect a local police officer who was probably excited he was going to get to work detail at the Trump rally. First responsibility, first priority is make sure his family gets in and friends. I'm willing to bet the officers in that part of Pennsylvania have never fired their weapon before. So my point is, in that type of situation, you can't have someone who's like, boy, I've never done this before, but I guess I should fire. If that had been a member of Secret Service going up to the rooftop and then seeing a guy lying there with a gun, boom, they would have popped him right there. They're in the zone for that. SWAT's in the zone for that, not a regular police officer. Not a regular police officer. So, but I want to touch on some of the reactions locally, which I find troubling and disturbing with some of the quote local leaders. But I also, a couple of reminders. Number one, JD Lawn Care. Folks, call them today. I see people all the time on social media asking about, can anyone recommend, a lawn care company? JD's Lawn Care and Tree Service. So they do a fantastic job, and they're local. You can call them at 401-441-0154. They're based out of Coventry. I do share their information. JD's Lawn Care and Tree Service. Now, also, someone was asking me, I think it was Dennis is going to have a fence put up. Dennis was asking me who is the fence company that I recommend. I don't mind answering the question. I'm glad Dennis contacted me. Dennis, you want to call, and I understand right now with what we're seeing, people's nerves are on edge. FenceRI.com, premier fence and deck contractor, quality, communication, value. Remember, if you contact them and mention the program, $200 off. FenceRI.com. Find them online, FenceRI.com. Look for them on Facebook. Licensed and insured, 5-star Google rating, whether it's for pool fencing, pet fencing. I spoke to someone recently who they just had a huge fence installed. They said, oh my God, changed my life. Best thing I ever did. He couldn't stand his neighbor. I don't blame him. Folks, FenceRI.com. Call them today, 401-732-0555. Free quote, FenceRI.com. You're going to love it. Now, I want to go through some of the reactions of some of the locals. And when I say, actually, let me just, wait a minute. I wanted to, okay. I think we're just going to wait and see who it's going to be. Who's going to be the VP selection? I don't know. Maybe it is going to be Senator J.D. Vance. Maybe it's going to be Senator Rubio. Maybe it's going to be the governor of North Dakota. Maybe it's going to be someone else. What should be impressed upon people is that President Trump has managed, there's been no leaks, and he has managed to, which is very positive. It's a good indication. They've run a very, very strong campaign. Let's see. White House official confirms the First Lady, Jill Biden, and Melania Trump spoke by phone Sunday afternoon. No other details yet available. I think that's positive. I think that's a positive sign. There should be communication. President Trump is telling the New York Post he's going to tone everything down. Now, this is interesting. Let's see. Trump may use vice presidential nomination to heal a divide within the party. Listen to this quote. Although Nikki Haley would be Trump's most surprising choice, she represents a reality Trump and his political advisors would be ill-advised to ignore. Namely, she garners 20% of the primary vote. I don't know if that is going to happen. I don't know if, in fact, she is going to be speaking now at the convention. I know. Here's what you also need to know about the president, and that is President Trump. He threw out the speech that he was going to give. So, and seemingly just has a different view of how he wants to address everyone at the convention, which will be Thursday night. The basic lineup is Thursday night, he will address. Wednesday night is when the vice presidential selection will. So, but President Trump is expected to address the convention tonight in Milwaukee. This stuff that goes on during the course of the day, the primetime speakers are at night. You know, like Fox will be gavel to gavel coverage. Newsmax will be gavel to gavel coverage. Most of the prime speaking parts, roles, are really 8 to 11 and then really 10 to 11. So, but listen to this. Commerce Secretary Gina Raimondo. No matter the divisions that run through our nation, we must come together with a clear and unequivocal message. There's no room for political violence. My thoughts are with former President Trump and those impacted, and I'm grateful for the swift response from Secret Service. Well, folks, let's unpack that a little bit. Those impacted, this was an attempted presidential assassination with death resulting in two in critical. And those impacted, do you understand? Political violence to me is that there's a protest and then the counter argument shows up. And then there's a skirmish between the two. That to me is political violence. This was an attempted assassination, death resulting. And it's not lost on President Trump. That firefighter, the two individuals that are in critical condition, number one, there's no telling that they're going to survive. We don't know their condition. They may not live, or their lives may never be the same. So those impacted, this goes beyond, as I've said, political violence. This is the same group that just continues to gin everybody up. And as I have told you, and I don't mind, I went back and forth with someone in the media. They wanted to communicate with me off the record, which is fine. But, and said, you're the only one mentioning Cicilline and Seth Magaziner and Sheldon Whitehouse. Listen, those people, they go beyond partisanship. They go beyond trying to make their argument. What the way they describe and have for a period of time, anyone who is a Republican, anyone that is a Trump supporter, they treat as less than normal, something wrong with them, Neanderthal almost. That's what it comes down to. Now, Governor McKee, political violence of any kind is abhorrent and inexcusable. Praying for the safety of former President Trump and those at the rally. He doesn't even mention that someone lost their life and that two of the other people are now in critical condition. My point is, you have to go beyond that. As I've said, political violence, this goes beyond political violence. This is a political assassination with death resulting. If this 20-year-old, who apparently, thank God, was not a good shot, you've heard by now, President Trump also told the New York Post he could hear the bullet whiz past him as it tagged him in the air. He did have a big bandage on his upper ear. As you've heard by now, I believe, if he had not turned his head, or just think about that, just for that second, boom, it goes in, and his life is over, the campaign is over, and we're in a completely different place. For Governor McKee, Seth Magaziner, Gabe Amo, Sheldon White, they all put out just the sheer basic of political violence is unacceptable. That is what, to me, you would say. If there were people that were walking along holding Biden signs and somebody threw a rock at them, then you would maybe say political violence is unacceptable. This is far larger. And also, look at this. The fact that President Biden even compares what happened Saturday to January 6th to try to compare it to the fake kidnapping of the governor of Michigan. Several things have happened now. Number one, Biden's not leaving. This should be a matter of the battle box. He's not going anywhere. At this point, I believe, I'm not saying you got to take it for granted, but I think many of you feel the way I do, which is nothing can stop us from voting now. Nothing can stop us from voting now. And there's no enthusiasm with the Democrat base. And by all accounts, this means this development, they're not going to switch out Biden now. He's in for the long haul. And it sure sounds though the Democrat Party is resigned to the fact that he's going to lose, especially in the swing states. And it's very simple. When you have one guy shot, leaping up, pumping his fist, blood coming down, and the other person frail, I think that part, I believe it's decided and over. But we're stuck with people that they're not leaders like a McKee. They're just elected officials. So number one, replacing Biden is off the table. That's it. They're not going to replace him now because what's the point? You're not going to stop someone that pulls off what President Trump pulled off. Like many of you, I'm anxious to see him on the stage. I'm anxious to hear the new speech. Where I may be different than some of you, I was actually encouraged that President Biden reached out to him and President Trump took the phone call. It was short. It was civil. Our enemies can't be between the Atlantic and Pacific. We do have enemies in the world, but for certain people to be talking about toning it down, and don't get me wrong, Morning Joe, they weren't even on this morning, probably because MSNBC just realized what an embarrassment it would have been. But in our own state, I'll just be the first one to say it. When you have the likes of last summer, the Lieutenant Governor Matos, that total embarrassment lightweight, when she got caught in her signature scandal, the first thing she said was, "Oh, I thought it was dirty tricks from MAGA Republicans." In the local media, they don't even call her out on it. The Journal doesn't call her out on it. The television stations are compromised. You don't have anyone that pushes back on that. People forget. Jerry Zarella was nice enough. He actually stepped up and was going to co-chair. It was not this past spring, but the year before, a fundraiser last year for Governor McKee. As soon as that hit the press, McKee said, "Oh, I would never set foot in the home of someone that had anything to do with Trump and a MAGA Republican. I wouldn't dignify it." You know, Governor McKee, Senator Whitehouse, the progressives at the State House. You even have like an Aaron Ruggenberg. It's the nonstop name calling. They stand up, Gabe Amo at a Democrat debate, and the way they belittle anyone who's a Trump supporter, and the way they talk about him, and they're all hinged, and we're all just a bunch of white supremacists, and it's got to end. And I'll tell you someone that I'm disappointed with. And we just had him on the show last week, but I'm going to tell you in just a moment. But folks, I want to remind you, and I get asked this all the time. As many of you know, I'm very active. And the only way you can be is if you're mobile. If you're having problems with your feet, foot pain, it's not normal. Call and make an appointment with Greenville Foot and Ankle Specialists. They're right in the Smithfield Medical Center, Route 5 in Smithfield. Remember, they have 3 board-certified podiatrists. If you've ever, now I've been to, I remember I was in New York in 1992. I didn't attend, but I remember the Bill Clinton convention. The security at that time was a bunch of police, New York City police, that just stood and formed a circle around Madison Square Garden, and they were there 24 hours a day, the starting that Sunday through the length of the convention. I went to the excuse me, the Republican convention at Madison Square Garden in 2004 when President Bush was the president, and there was a lot of walking because then the security zone was, you had to enter at Macy's at 34th Street and then make your way through there. I attended the 2004 Democrat convention at TD Garden when John Kerry was the nominee and Barack Obama gave the keynote. A lot of walking there. You can't, you have to do something if you're having a problem walking. Don't accept and say that's just the way it is. Folks, call Greenville Foot and Ankle Specialist today, 401-949-3220. It's not God's will that you experience foot pain. It's not normal. Something can be done, and don't ignore it. With Greenville Foot and Ankle Specialist, number one, you're talking about 3 board-certified podiatrists, number one. Number two, they perform all aspects of foot care, skin condition, bunions, hammer toe. They treat injuries like fractures and sprain, digital x-ray on site. Save time, avoid the ER. Greenville Foot and Ankle Specialist. Call today, 401-949-3220, 401-949-3220, Greenville Foot and Ankle Specialist. Now, also, Helen sent me an email. Helen's going to have a family reunion at her house and asked me who should she call. They want to get rid of all the mosquitoes and ticks and so forth. Helen, contact Mosquito Joe. Mosquito Joe, 401-426-2032. You can find them on Facebook, Mosquito Joe, or online, rhodeisland.mosquitojoe.com. Mosquito Joe, they come, they treat your yard and property, and they will get rid of all the mosquitoes and ticks. Mosquito Joe. So right now at 12:34, this is major what's happening right now. And next hour, you're going to hear Politics This Week with Justin Katz. Folks, I think it's an opening. It's an opening that maybe our region of the country could start to have some balance. Maybe our region of the country could start to have more voices than the progressive voices that have completely put us under. I'll say this. This is mid-July. Right now, by all accounts, and it's good for the nation, President Trump, now we don't know who his VP selection is just yet. Supposedly that announcement is going to come in he is just remarkable, isn't he? Survived an assassination attempt. It's just, not yet announced as VP. He's going to make that choice today. Now that's big. I still don't think, I don't know. Obviously no one does other than him. Maybe he had someone he thought he was going to pick and then changed his mind now since the assassination attempt. But what you see right now with President Trump, that's the Republican Party. That's the Republican Party that we could all get behind. And it is that element of fight, fight, fight. That is how President Trump, that's what drew me to him. I remember when he came down that escalator of June of 2015, and I was on the air down the dial, and we carried it live. And I remember one of the first couple of people I immediately had on the air. One was Terry Gorman, who was always so instrumental with Ryle. And President Trump came out of the box on that. One of the other people that was a big supporter immediately out of the box was Jerry Zarella, lifetime Democrat, but said, that's the type of guy I'm with. The person that lost their life over the weekend was a firefighter. Now, in Rhode Island, wrongly, all of the firefighters, they all line up behind Biden. They all line up and say, our union tells us to support Biden. Think of what are they thinking now? Now they're talking about firefighters from all over the country they're going to travel in to Pennsylvania for Corey's funeral. The man that heard the shots, dove on top of his wife and two daughters to protect them, and lost his life. And that President Trump wants to attend the funeral. Maybe it's a wake-up call. Maybe firefighters in Rhode Island and Massachusetts will suddenly realize that even though the unions are all behind Biden, maybe there should be more to it than that. Maybe it shouldn't just be the automatic you vote for who the union boss is. We're all voting for McKee. We're all voting for Matos. The union boss tells us we're all voting for Biden. We're all voting for Kamala Harris. When is enough enough? When else do you then get a fighter? When is it going to be that the people of Rhode Island start to find their voice and get rid of this hostage situation? The McKee and the corruption, the corruption, how bad is the corruption of Rhode Island Governor Dan McKee? Never ending. He has his buddy down the dial and threatens the station. You better keep him on. He threatens the station, and they cave to it, by the way. Have my people on, and no one question them, so he controls that. How bad is the corruption under Governor McKee? I would argue, I think it's worse than the Depreet of the 80s. It's unprecedented when you step forward and say, we have $1 billion on a job to give away, and no one bids on it. No one wants to get involved with the pay to play, because the moment you say you want in, all the barnacles that grab onto McKee, all the corruption flies immediately would log on to that people, that company and those individuals. Then they got to start throwing fundraisers. Then they got to hire this consultant. Then they got to hire that consultant. Then they have a Jerry Shahazian knocking on their door. Then they have all these demands from McKee. How bad is it? $1 billion. Now think of this. If there's a company that says we have $25 million and we want someone to build it, think of the different people who want to bid on that. A $25 million job. This is a $1 billion job, and no one wanted to bid on it. And what does McKee say? Biden's the greatest president of my lifetime. Folks, President Trump coming into power, it's, first of all, he's not going to give McKee the money for the bridge. If anything, the efforts of the FBI to investigate the McKee campaign, to investigate the McKee administration, never forget, Rhode Island Governor Dan McKee is still under an FBI probe, which also plays into why no one wanted to bid on it. Who wants to get involved with those practices? A Trump presidency shuts the door on the McKee corruption. Do you think Seth Magaziner is going to bring home any money from a Trump administration? Do you think Gabe Amo, who's still going to New Hampshire on the weekends to campaign for Biden, talking about lost, it's a chance to give direction to the Republican Party. It's a chance to, that's the way I view it, to show them the path, to show them this is the path of how you win. You can't, when you're talking about the type of forces of evil that control the Den of Thieves, the Rhode Island State House, when you talk about the level of corruption that McKee and Matos are involved in, we all talk about it. It's going to take federal efforts to finally, you think the Washington is a swamp. I mean, we're right on the border of it. I think, as I was speaking to someone last week, the fact that it speaks volumes that Rhode Island Governor Dan McKee was waiving a $1 billion contract, and no one, not even in the corruption of builders, bricklayers, a lot of times those companies are not the most reputable to deal with, put it mildly. None of them even wanted to touch it. That's how deep it is. And President Trump is not going to fund 75% of this bridge. I'm telling you right now, it's never happening. So the people in the East Bay they better get used to it. Someone we had on last week that I don't understand why he put this out, but I took exception to it. And I'm not going to make a huge deal of it, but it happened. I'm always curious how people react in real time. And this was at 7:10 on Saturday night, and we had him on the program. And I was very disappointed to see this because I get the sense that he may run for office again. I would think he would run as a Republican. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he runs as a Democrat. But Ken Block put out on social media on X, everyone needs to calm the blank down. Both sides need to turn the hyperbole way, all caps, way down. As Justin Katz responded, only one side is ratcheting up the hyperbole, but you support that side. So you turn to both sidesism. When I saw that, I even said, Ken, only one side, both sides, one side just tried an assassination attempt. One side has been saying he's a threat that needs to be stopped. One side keeps preaching and ginning up the base that it's the end of the democracy, that our country's going to end. That one side has been preaching that President Trump is evil and needs to be stopped, and his people, as Sabina Matos said, and those MAGA Republicans that are less than human, a lieutenant governor using that type of language and not even being questioned about it. She said that on an interview down the dial and wasn't even questioned about it. No one even says that. When McKee can go on the radio with his stupid little Ask the Governor segment, where all the questions are submitted in advance and the whole thing, and he can say things, well, we have to stop the evil of the MAGA Republicans. These are dangerous individuals that need to be stopped at any cost. When you say things like that and you're not challenged, it's very dangerous rhetoric. And you saw it on Saturday. You saw on Saturday someone that in his demented mind, that 20-year-old outcast, listening to the voices of the Democrat Party, finally thought, I'm going to take actions, matters into my own hands. Folks, this portion of our program is brought to you by Royal Exteriors. If you're thinking of getting a new roof or siding, call Andrew at Royal Exteriors today, 401-533-9989. Free estimate, Royal Exteriors, 401-533-9989. Tremendous customer service. Remember, Royal Exteriors, where the customer is king or queen. Royal Exteriors. Now, if you log on to their website, it's royalexteriorsri.com, or if you find them on Facebook, well, you'll see all their great reviews. Royal Exteriors. Call today, free quote. If you're thinking of getting a new roof, at least put them into the mix. 401-533-9989. Call Andrew at Royal Exteriors. Well, folks, good afternoon. At 12:45 on this historic Monday, July 15th. I think there's a lot of excitement building. Just a thought that President Trump is going to walk out onto that stage tonight and still alive and lucky to be alive. I want to just read this. Dave Wasserman, most shocking chasm heading into the conventions. 33% of Democrat voters are satisfied with their nominee compared to 71% of GOP voters. See, that affects turnout. That affects enthusiasm. That affects a lot of things. I'm telling you right now, it would take a very special individual to be able to, I don't see a circumstance. You can't. He is just remarkable. And as I've told you folks, I feel very, very fortunate that I've had the opportunity to, meet President Trump, talk to President Trump, take a photo with President Trump, my son to meet President Trump. I think my middle child's going to meet him this week, be with him at the White House. I mean, those of you that have listened to the program, I mean, it's what he achieved on Saturday. You know what else is also remarkable that I did hear? It was actually, I think it was Abby Phillips on CNN. And once after everybody ducked, people didn't run out. They ducked. He wanted to continue the rally. His supporters stood back up. You hear the Secret Service, shooters down, we're clear. He wanted to. I mean, it's still unbelievable. I keep watching the video. It is just, it's like something out of from heaven. He gets up, and it was almost like ready to resume. Where was I? As he's got the blood coming out of the ear. But the crowd got up, and they didn't panic and run. And Abby Phillips of CNN said, it's really extraordinary that the supporters got up and were chanting. They didn't all just completely flee. You see sometimes there's a shooting, nightclub, whatever, and people get trampled. It shows his supporters are that strong. New York Post. Grateful. Michael Goodwin got the interview. Defiant Trump recounts surviving surreal assassination. I'm supposed to be dead. It's just surreal. The doctor at the hospital said he never saw anything like it, called it a miracle. He was sporting a large, loose white bandage covered his right ear. Staff insisted no photos be taken. I want to read some of this. I read it all earlier, but I want to just kind of go through it a little bit. I find that I'm reading and rereading so much of. Here it is. Okay, I'm not supposed to be here. I'm supposed to be dead. Oh, God. He said he would be if he'd not turned his head slightly to the right to read a chart on illegal immigrants. At that instant, what would have been a kill shot tore off a small piece of his ear and spattered blood on his forehead and cheek. Trump said Secret Service agents let him off stage. He still wanted to continue speaking, but the agents told him it wasn't safe. They had to get him to a hospital. President Trump marveled how the agents came flying in like linebackers as soon as the shooting started, unbuttoned his long sleeve to show a large bruise on his right forearm. They literally tackled him. I did hear that. He's got a huge bruise on his right forearm. He also cleared up a mystery about the shoes. On the video, he could be saying, wait, I want to get my shoes. He explained, the agents hit me so hard my shoes fell off, and my shoes are tight. He commended the Secret Service personnel for their heroic actions, praised them for gunning down the shooter, who was perched on a roof 130 yards from the stage. That's the part that no one can understand. I don't get it. They took him out with one shot right between the eyes, the former president said, pointed to the bridge of his nose. Wow. They did a fantastic job. Trump also addressed the incredible photo of him raising his fist and saying, fight 3 times as the agents tried to get him off stage into an armored SUV. A lot of people say it's the most iconic photo they've ever seen. They're right. And I didn't die. Usually you have to die to have an iconic photo. He added, I just wanted to keep speaking, but I just got shot. The doctor at the local hospital, which was a trauma center, told him he's never seen anyone survive getting hit by an AR-15. He could, by luck or by God, many people saying it's by God I'm still here. He could hear the bullet whizzing by his ear. One man at the rally was shot and killed. 2 were wounded. Asked if he'd given any thought to attending the funeral of Corey Campetor, the firefighter who died, shielding his family from the killer's gunfire. Trump said, get the numbers. I want to go to the hospital, call all the families. He also praised the crowd at the rally. That was 55,000 people, and all remained calm. A lot of places, especially soccer games, you hear a single shot, everybody runs. Here there were many shots and they stayed. President Trump said, I love them, talking about the crowd. I love them. He feels like he has a new lease on life. There's such great people, talking about his followers. Then President Trump said, I prepared an extremely tough speech for Thursday night. Really good. All about corrupt. I threw it away. I want to try to unite our country. I don't know if it's possible. People are very divided. Then what about policy? Some people want open borders, some don't. Some want men to be able to play on women's sports teams, others don't. He's right about that. Governor McKee wants open borders. President Trump doesn't. Rhode Island Governor Dan McKee wants men to be able to play women's sports. President Trump does not. You know, folks, it just gives you pause. When we talk about what a moment we're in a nation, as I've told you, we're really at the fact at this point that McKee and Matos they're supposed to be the top 1-2 in the entire state. It's just beyond frightening. We deserve so much better. We are better than that. They're two mediocre no talents is what they are. President Trump is the polar opposite of everything. President Trump is strong, McKee is weak. He's just a useless political hack that made all these promises to the unions to get elected. And now we're just stuck with them for another 2 years. It's just so frustrating. President Trump said he appreciated the call from President Biden, calling it fine. Biden was very nice. The campaign between them now would be civil from now on. So they dropped the charges today. How about that? The interview included Byron York, 30 minutes, concluded as the plane sat on the tarmac. So they landed in Milwaukee. They allowed Byron York and the reporter from the New York Post to come on. At one point, a video of the shooting flashed on a large TV screen. Turned to CBS News facing Trump, watched him as he watched the big screen. He was riveted and said it was the first time he had watched the 2-minute segment. More than once, he shook his head as if disturbed how close he came to death. Regarding the campaign, he's confident he's on a path to victory. When I mentioned how the gambling odds had shifted overnight, what would be bigger? Biden's collapse at their first debate or the assassination attempt? He didn't give out his opinion. I also just want to mention, and that's the cover of the New York Post. I shouldn't be here. Grateful President Trump talks about surviving assassin's bullets. Folks, I'm just saying, I hope this is a wake-up call. That for those that are willing to look out and see it, there are people that are projecting strength. There are people that demonstrate leadership. We have to get rid of this amateur hour. Seth Magaziner should not be in office. Gabe Amo should not be in office. McKee and Matos, we don't have. Senator Jack Reed is the only, quote, leader, and that's because of he did attend West Point, and that's because of his military background and knowledge with the military. But we need people, by the way, we need people that are going to appeal to all the people. Instead, these partisan hacks that it's all greed and money. That's all they're focused on is greed and money. The bridge is embarrassing. No one gets fired. No one gets suspended. No one even wants to bid to build it. I think a Trump presidency is just going to wake everybody up and maybe put us closer to bring more balance to the state. Folks, this portion of the program, if you are thinking of getting a new kitchen, remember Dreammaker, Bath and Kitchen. They take you one-stop shop from concept to completion. They're located right on Greenwich Avenue in Warwick, right near Crown Plaza. Call Dreammaker. If you're listing right now and think of getting a new kitchen, call Dreammaker, 433-7272. 433-7272. Dream Maker Bath and Kitchen. Put them in the mix. Take advantage. Free quote. Wait till you see the work they can do. See what they can deliver for you. Dream Maker. From dreams to reality. Experience upgraded living with your bath or kitchen remodel today. Remember, respect, integrity, and customer focus. It's Dream Maker Bath and Kitchen. 401-433-7272 for Dream Maker. Well, folks, good afternoon. You're listening to the John DePietro Show. It's AM 1380 and 99.9 FM. For those of you that do watch, you know, we were live on Saturday night. We were live last night. I don't just, there are some people that just go through the motions as media people, as you know. I'm not one of them. This is, especially right now, it's demanding. It's 7 days a week. And a huge development is that now this federal judge has dismissed the classified document case against President Trump. I mean, it's just huge. I'm seeing this right now. Former Speaker Nancy Pelosi, convinced Biden will lose, has been working the phones since June 27th, hopes of finding a way to ease him off the ticket. Nope. They know. There's no point now. There's no point in removing Biden because they're not going to put anyone else. Sean Spicer just tweeted, I still think Trump has something up his sleeve VP-wise. That's really interesting. We're going to find out later today. We don't know who it's going to be. Talking about when I just told you the chasm between, Frank Lutz said, this isn't just an enthusiasm gap, it's a canyon. The poll was taken before Butler, Pennsylvania. Wow. Let's see. Let me just say this. Burgum, Vance, Rubio, and Glenn Youngkin are all in Milwaukee. I don't know. We don't know who the VP selection is going to be, but we're going to find out today. All right, folks, it's 12:59. Now, again, we're going to follow developments with this. Make sure you follow this page. We expect to do Road Patrol later, right? But the big news of the day, number one, President Trump ready to roll. He's ready to walk out onto the stage tonight to greet everyone. A document case is kicked, and now we're just waiting for who his VP selection is going to be. We're going to break for the 1 o'clock news. Next hour, politics this week with Justin Katz. You're going to hear it. It's coming up next. We're back on the other side after the 1 o'clock news right here on the John DePietro Show.